Lebanon's Supreme Judicial Council meeting this Thursday to discuss developments in the port blast investigation. Protests outside the Justice Palace after steps were taken this week to hamstring the probe into the deadly blast in 2020 that killed over 200 people. The judge investigating the explosion announced on Monday he was resuming his probe after a 13-month suspension caused by high-level political pressure. But the country's top public prosecutor objected, filing charges against the judge. For more, let's speak to Professor Karim Emile Bitar. Hello to you, and thank you for speaking to France 24. This week's developments seem to set up a sort of tug of war in Lebanon's judiciary. Do you have confidence that it will make the right decision?
Unfortunately, few people have confidence today in Lebanon. They are horrified. We are witnessing the complete collapse of our entire judicial system. Historically, Beirut was known as the mother of laws. At the time of the Roman Empire, the Beirut School of Law was world-renowned. And today, the Lebanese authorities are making a mockery of the basic judicial principles. The top prosecutor you alluded to is allegedly politicized, very close to certain officials. He seems to be kowtowing to pressure and preventing an independent judge from carrying his investigation into what was one of the biggest non-nuclear explosions in world history.
Yeah, and this independent judge is Judge Bitar. Talk to us about the main obstacles he faces for his investigation.
Well, he has made some pretty basic requests. He wanted to hear the testimonies of a few former civil servants, interior ministers, people who were in charge when the ammonium nitrate was stocked in the port of Beirut, and they all systematically refused to be heard by the judge. They did not attend. They were protected by communal factions, by armed militias. They belong to both sides of the political spectrum. So what is ironic is that the Lebanese ruling clique sticks together when it comes to making sure there is no accountability. They threaten us with chaos. They say, if you want justice, you will have chaos. You will have a new civil war. And today we have massive demonstrations of Lebanese who say that they want accountability, they want an end to this culture of impunity, and they refuse to be constantly blackmailed with the threat of force or assassinations or chaos.
Yeah, a lot of anger also about what happened on Wednesday when the detainees were allowed to leave. Why was that so controversial?
Well, I can understand that some of them have been in pre-trial detention for too long. However, for the families of the victims, it is a slap in the face because they did not get to hear basic testimonies. They did not get to see any improvement in this trial. And they have the feeling that everyone will get away with it, that we will never see the concrete results of this investigation. One of them even left the country as soon as he was released from jail. So we can definitely understand the anger of the victims' families.
Yeah, we're still waiting to see what the council decides today, but in a highly sensitive case like this, everyone has a theory about what happened. Sadly, no one, as you said, expects perhaps full justice. 2.5 years later, though, no one powerful has been held to account. Are we any closer to seeing that happening?
No, not a single person, as you said, was held accountable, not even minor officials. The country is extremely polarized. Public opinion is divided. However, an overwhelming majority of the Lebanese would like this independent judge to go to the Accusation Act to publish his conclusions so they can at least point fingers to those who are responsible if they cannot see them jailed, because most of them are protected by militias or political influential factions.
Give us a couple of scenarios based on what the Supreme Judicial Council could decide today. What are we looking at possible conclusions?
Well, they do not have the authority to remove the judge, to replace him. They tried every single dirty trick in the book to get rid of this judge. He was threatened, he was intimidated, but they do not have the authority to completely remove him. And he is determined to dig in his heels. However, we could have a judicial conflict between various factions, and this is quite scary because Lebanon is on the verge of complete state collapse. We already have one of the worst economic crises in world history, and if there is no judicial system, we will see massive waves of emigration. We will see a breakdown, security incidents, a breakdown of the state, and the resurgence of local militias trying to take justice into their own hands, which would be extremely dangerous.
Yeah, and do you think the people who are responsible for that blast, or at least should be held accountable, are willing to see the country to collapse just to avoid any sort of prosecution?
If we look at Lebanese history, the cold hard truth is yes, they are ready to see the entire country collapse in order to prevent accountability. We have seen this scenario all over again in the past. We have had over 150 political assassinations in the past century, and none of these political assassinations led to an arrest or to anyone being seriously held accountable.
Professor, thank you very much for your time and your analysis. Karim Emile Bitar speaking to us from Beirut.